It's 2 in the morning. The room is dark, except for whatever pale light finds its way through the curtains, and the temperature outside has dropped to somewhere around 55 degrees Fahrenheit, that quiet cold that makes the night feel even more still. You're lying there. The pillow is too warm on one side, so you've flipped it. Twice. The blanket is fine. Your body is fine. There's nothing wrong, technically. And yet your mind is going somewhere. Fast. Somewhere you didn't choose to go. A conversation from 3 weeks ago is replaying itself. A decision you made last year is being held up to the light and examined from every angle. A fear you thought you'd buried is sitting at the foot of your bed, like it never left. You close your eyes harder as if that will help. It doesn't. You've been here before. You know this room. You know this feeling. The strange aloneness of being awake when everyone else seems to be asleep. When the world has gone quiet, but your mind has decided, no, not yet, not tonight. Tonight, we're going to look at everything. And maybe part of you wonders, why does this keep happening to me? That question is the beginning of something, not an answer, not a fix, just the beginning of understanding why, for so many of us, the night is the only place our truest selves finally get a word in. Let's sit with that for a moment. You probably have a version of this ritual, even if you've never called it that. It might not be exactly 2 a.m. Maybe it's the long drive home from work, the last 30 minutes before sleep, or the 10 quiet minutes in the shower when no one is asking anything of you. There's a specific moment each day when the noise drops away and something rises up from underneath. And what rises up is not random. You've noticed that, haven't you? It's never the neutral stuff. It's never the grocery list or the movie you watched last weekend. It's always the thing that still has weight, the conversation where you said too much or not enough, the relationship that ended in a way that still doesn't make sense, the version of yourself you used to believe in before something happened that made you less sure. You lie there and you think about that person who looked at you a certain way at work. You replay what you said. You rewrite what you should have said. You imagine a version of events where you came out looking better, cleaner, more certain. And then, somehow, that thought leads to another, which leads to a memory from 7 years ago, which leads to a question about your whole life. And suddenly it's 3:15 a.m., and you're wondering whether you've ever really known yourself at all. That's not spiral. That's not dramatic. That's just what happens when a mind that has been managing itself all day finally gets left alone. The managing is exhausting, actually. You spend so much of your waking life filtering, deciding what to say and what to keep in, deciding which version of yourself to bring to which room, performing composure in the middle of things that don't deserve your composure, and you do it well. People probably think you're calm, put together, someone who has things figured out, but at 2 a.m. the performance ends, and what's left is just you. Here's what's actually happening underneath all of it, and stay with this, because it might feel a little unexpected at first. Your brain is not broken. It is not betraying you. It is doing something it was literally designed to do, but it's doing it at the wrong time, in the wrong context, for a version of life that no longer requires it. During the day, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, emotional regulation, is working overtime. It's managing inputs, making decisions, suppressing reactions that would be socially costly. Think of it like a very competent executive assistant who answers every call, schedules every meeting, and keeps everything running smoothly. You rely on it constantly. You may not even realize how much, but the body has limits. Willpower, attention, emotional suppression. All of these are finite resources. Psychologists call this ego depletion, the idea that the mental energy you use to regulate yourself throughout the day gets used up, and by nighttime, there is simply less of it left. And when that regulation weakens, what was being held back comes forward. This is not a flaw. This is the structure of how human consciousness works. The thoughts that surface at 2 a.m. are not new thoughts. They are the thoughts that were already there, waiting. the feelings that didn't get processed during the day because there was no time, no space, no safety. Your mind doesn't forget, it archives, and the night is when the archive opens. There's a concept in psychology called rumination, which sounds clinical and distant, but it just means the repetitive, involuntary return to the same painful thoughts or memories. Like a song stuck in your head, except it's not a song. It's a wound. And the reason it keeps playing is not because you are weak or obsessive. It's because some part of your system has flagged it as unresolved. And unresolved things demand attention. They always have. Your mind at 2 a.m. is trying to finish something. The question is whether finishing it the same way over and over in the dark, alone, is actually bringing you any closer to peace. And here is where it gets more interesting and maybe a little harder to hear. The thoughts that haunt you at 2 a.m. are not just random anxieties floating in from nowhere. They have a pattern, and the pattern usually points somewhere specific, back to something that taught you, early on, that certain feelings were not allowed to be felt in the open. Think about what the thoughts are usually about. For a lot of people, they fall into a few categories. They're about whether you are good enough, whether you are loved in the way you need to be loved, whether you made the right choices, and whether the wrong ones have already cost you something you can't get back, whether the people in your life truly see you, or just a version of you that you've carefully constructed for them. These aren't random worries, these are attachment questions. They go all the way back to the earliest experiences you had of being seen or not seen, of being safe or not safe, of learning whether it was okay to have needs. Some of you grew up in homes where emotions were treated as inconvenient. You learned quickly to make yourself smaller, quieter, less demanding. Some of you grew up carrying responsibilities that were not yours to carry, learning to take care of others before you even knew how to take care of yourself. Some of you were loved but conditionally, in ways that taught you that love had requirements, that you had to earn it, that you had to keep earning it, and the child who learned those things grew up and built a life, a functioning life, even a good one in many ways. But underneath the functioning, those early lessons are still running, still shaping which thoughts feel dangerous, still deciding which feelings are safe to have in public, and which ones can only come out at 2 a.m. when no one is watching. Maybe I've always known this, I just never had the quiet to hear it. That is the paradox of the nighttime mind. The darkness that feels like the problem is actually the only space honest enough to hold the truth. The consequences of this pattern run deeper than just lost sleep. They show up in ways you might not immediately connect to those 2 a.m. hours. They show up in how you respond when someone criticizes you. A small comment lands harder than it should, and you can't explain why. It's because that comment didn't just hit the adult version of you. It hit the version of you that learned, somewhere along the way, that criticism meant you weren't enough. The 2 a.m. mind and the daytime reaction are the same wound in different clothes. They show up in relationships. You might find yourself drawn to people who require you to constantly prove yourself because that familiarity, even if it hurts, feels like home. Or you might push away people who are genuinely steady and kind because their calm feels suspicious, like something must be wrong if it's this easy. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate old dynamics in new relationships, not because you enjoy suffering, but because the familiar, even when painful, registers as safe. They show up in the way you talk to yourself when you fail, not gently, not with the patience you'd offer a friend, but with a voice that is sharp, relentless, and entirely too familiar. That voice has a history, and it gets loudest at 2 a.m. Here is the unexpected angle, the one most people don't consider. The overthinking that exhausts you is not your enemy. At some point in your life, it was your protection. If you could anticipate every way something might go wrong, you could prepare. You could prevent. You could stay safe. The hypervigilance, the constant mental scanning for threats, the replaying of conversations to identify what you might have done wrong. These were survival strategies. They worked, once. They kept you one step ahead of something that needed to be one step ahead of. What saved you then imprisons you now. And recognizing that, really sitting with it, changes the relationship you can have with those thoughts. They're not proof that something is wrong with you. They're proof that something once was hard for you, and you adapted in the only way you knew how, and here it is. The thing that might be the truest sentence in all of this: you are not afraid of the dark. You are afraid of what you might finally have to feel in it. That's it, that's the whole thing. Because the thoughts at 2 a.m. are not the real problem, they're the door. The real thing is what's behind it. The grief you haven't let yourself grieve because you told yourself you had to be okay. The loneliness you've been managing so efficiently that you've almost convinced yourself it isn't there. The version of yourself you had to put away because the world didn't make room for it, and you're not sure whether it's still in there waiting or whether it's gone. There's something I've been carrying so long I stopped calling it weight. At 2 a.m., the door opens. Not because you're broken, not because your mind is attacking you, but because everything you've been managing finally runs out of manager. The silence isn't cruel, it's honest. It's the first honest thing you've felt all day. And the question isn't how to make the thoughts stop. The question, the real one, the one worth sitting with, is, what are they trying to show you? Here is where something can shift. Not fix, not solve, shift. The way most people approach 2 a.m. thinking is as a problem to be eliminated. You try to distract yourself. You scroll your phone until your eyes hurt. You turn on a podcast so someone else's voice fills the space. You practice breathing exercises with the quiet desperation of someone trying to outrun themselves. And sometimes those things help in the moment. There's no shame in that, but they don't touch what's underneath. What's underneath is a part of you that has never been given space to be witnessed. Not fixed, not improved, just seen. There's an idea, not from a textbook, but from lived human experience across cultures and centuries, that we carry inside us younger versions of ourselves. The child who was told they were too much, the teenager who learned to perform confidence they didn't feel, the young adult who decided, for whatever reason, to stop asking for what they needed. These parts don't disappear when you get older, they go quiet, and they come out at 2 a.m. What would it feel like to stop fighting them and start listening? Not to give them control, not to spiral deeper into the thoughts, but to simply acknowledge, yes, I hear you. I know you've been waiting. I know this is hard. I'm not going to run from you tonight. That shift from resistance to curiosity, from management to presence, is not something you achieve. It's something you practice, imperfectly, over time. Some nights it will be easier than others. Some nights the thoughts will win, and you'll end up at 4 a.m. with a heart full of something that doesn't have a name yet. That's allowed. The path forward is not about perfection. It's about beginning to understand that the thoughts aren't separate from you, something to be defeated or medicated away or fixed with enough positive thinking. They are you, a part of you that is asking, with everything it has, to be understood. Maybe I don't need to figure everything out tonight. Maybe tonight I just need to stop pretending I'm fine. That is enough. That is actually a radical thing to allow yourself. And slowly, not all at once, not in a straight line, the 2 a.m. hours can become something different. Not easy, not silent, but honest in a way that the rest of your life rarely gets to be. So here you are. It's still dark. Maybe it's past 2 now. Maybe it's closer to 3 or 3:30, that hour that feels like the whole world is asleep except for you, and nothing has been solved. Nothing has been wrapped up neatly with a message and a bow. You still have the same thoughts, the same questions, the same tender places that haven't finished healing yet. That's not failure. That's just what it means to be a human being who has lived long enough to accumulate something real. But maybe something is slightly different now. Maybe the thoughts feel a little less like an ambush and a little more like a signal. Maybe the night feels a little less like a punishment and a little more like an opening. You don't have to have this figured out. You don't have to understand every piece of why you are the way you are before you are allowed to be gentler with yourself. The understanding comes slowly, in pieces, over years, and it comes through living with more honesty, not more analysis, more presence, not more control. There will be more nights like this one. You probably know that. The 2 a.m. mind doesn't disappear because you've understood it once. It will come back. It will bring the same thoughts, sometimes, and new ones you didn't know were there yet. That's not a sign that you haven't healed enough. It's a sign that you're still alive, still feeling, still in the process of becoming whoever you're in the middle of becoming. I am not as far behind as I feared. I am not as broken as I felt at 3 a.m., and the people who seem like they never lie awake like this, like they've solved the night, like they rest without the weight, they haven't solved it. They've just found different ways to not look. Looking is braver, looking is harder, looking is quietly, the beginning of something that eventually, in its own time, becomes peace. Not the kind of peace that means the absence of pain, the kind that means you can sit with pain without it swallowing you whole. There's a difference between those two things, and it matters. Outside, the world is still dark. The temperature has dropped another few degrees, and somewhere out there, the city is doing that 3 a.m. thing it does. Half asleep, half running, all the quiet machinery of the world turning over in the dark. And here you are inside all of that, with your thoughts, with your questions, with the particular shape of your particular life, pressing gently against the inside of your chest. That pressing is not a problem. That's just you. That's just the cost and the gift of being someone who feels things deeply enough that they need somewhere to go. Let them go somewhere tonight, not away, through. The night that opened the door will also eventually deliver the morning. It always does. And you, still here, still looking, still awake enough to ask why, that means something. That means something quiet and true and not yet finished. Just like you,